When Iron Maiden recruited Bruce Dickinson on the Killer World Tour in 1981, they could not have realized how drastic of an impact it would have on their evolution as a band. Dickinson was invited to join in September of 1981, though Paul Di'Anno would play a few more gigs with the band before being asked to leave. Immediately upon his arrival, Bruce Dickinson made a huge impact, having been introduced to the band through his former group Samson, who had opened for Iron Maiden. The creative spark between him and the other members of the band, most notably Steve Harris, facilitated a more progressive and intricate songwriting intuition that they could not necessarily have achieved with Paul Di'Anno's particular style and abilities. While many of the songs that would appear on The Number of the Beast were written just before and during Bruce Dickinson's recruitment, he had a drastic effect and input into the eventual direction they would evolve into on the final versions of the songs. That being said, he could not have his name in the songwriting credits as he was still in a frustrating legal battle over his departure from Samson. Clive Burr also finally contributed significant input into two of the tracks, Total Eclipse and Gangland, in his last outing before leaving the group at the end of the Beast on the Road tour in December of 1982. While these songs aren't the strongest on the album, they showcase the band's energetic presence nonetheless, providing some solid rock tunes amidst the more progressive and complex arrangements present on most of the rest of the album. Without further delay, let us explore this highly acclaimed album. Here is a glimpse of Iron Maiden's junior record, 1982's The Number of the Beast. Welcome back, Iron Maiden fans, where today we will be peering inside one of the band's most celebrated records, 1982's The Number of the Beast, which is considered by many to be their best record. While I agree that's a much stronger record overall than their first two, it's by no means their best. It does have some weaker tracks on it, so it was a big step up, and after the increase in popularity that came with Killers, they kind of took a gamble by dismissing frontman Paul Di'Anno, since a lot of their fans at the time were into the more raw and punkish quality of his voice, as well as the material that they had put on the first two albums. That being said, though, the transition to Bruce's style in the accompanying songwriting was abruptly positive, and it opened them up to a lot of new fans. A few songs from The Number of the Beast actually appeared on the Killers tour after Bruce Dickinson had joined. There were a couple London gigs near the end of the Killers tour where they played pairs of songs from the new album. And at one gig they played early versions of 22 Acacia Avenue and Children of the Damned, and at another gig they played The Prisoner and Run to the Hills, kind of giving fans a sneak peek at what they were working on at the time. Many of the earlier fans were put off by the change in sound, but like I said, the more progressive and intricate songwriting they started working on with The Number of the Beast appealed to a much broader demographic, so that was perfect in light of the fact that they were getting gigs all over the world at this point, touring Eastern Bloc and whatnot. And the band, despite not having much time to work on a new album, somehow got the creative juices on tap to crank out 9 new songs while they were still on tour for the previous album. And they began recording in January of '82, just a few weeks after the Killers tour was over. So they just got right back in it. And they recorded over the course of like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and the album was released at the end of March. That's less than a year. That's only 9 months after they released Killers. You know, how many bands really do that anymore? It's a lost art for someone to, as a band entity, to just be so prolific in their touring and recording cycles and manage to put out an awesome record to boot. Well, I suppose we better get started. It's time for a track-by-track analysis of The Number of the Beast. So let's get started. Alright, the opening track, Invaders. The intro riff, which is also the outro riff, really does a good job of pulling you into the song with the great energy early on, and there's a good build-up after that opening riff into the verses that just carries the tempo and keeps the energy at a really high level. The verses are also pretty strong in that regard with the riffing, and there's some really cool, groovy riffs and also nice solos on guitar in the middle of the song, and the tempo in this song overall just doesn't let up, and it's a really, really high energy song. On some critical notes, the verses lack a little bit of a vocal punch by Bruce, and the chorus is also kind of weak. Overall, the vocals on this song fall a little flat. They're just missing something, and he feels a little bit tired, like he doesn't project enough into it, and so that kind of pegged the rating down. And despite the energy overall of the song, it's just lacking a little bit of a spark. So let's take a look at the final rating. Invaders receives a final rating of 9.66 out of 13. Children of the Damned. It starts off on a strong note with the sweet guitar riff, and the bass and ride cymbal really carry well underneath it, and then there's a pre-verse guitar solo that's just beautifully done, and Bruce's vocals are really strong on this song, and it really puts you in there. The verses also have overall a really lovely ambience with all the instruments feeding off each other. It's just great pacing. The chorus is really strong overall, and there's a bridge just before the instrumental passage that's really powerful with the graphic lyrics and very descriptive, and it really puts you in there. And then the guitar harmonies and solo during the instrumental bridge are also just carrying a ton of clout to them. And the ending of the song has tons of energy, really raw emotion, so it ends good. On critical notes, the chorus is a little bit repetitive, and there's just a tiny lack of dimension in it, some esoteric values. And so let's take a look at the rating. Children of the Damned receives a 10.25 out of 13. Okay, The Prisoner. The opening is from a TV show of the same name, which inspired them to write the song, actually, and then segues into some groovy, punchy sounding drums by Clive, and also segues into a heavy riff after that. And then the verse riff itself is really nicely done with some full-bodied sounding chords on the guitar, and Bruce's vocals really capture the moods of the character while he's on the run and fighting the system. And the pre-chorus build-up does a good job of putting you in the story as well. The chorus in this song is really solid, and it's anthemic, and just great vocal harmonies really puts you in the story. And the instrumental bridge also is really solid, especially drumming, and then the guitar riffs are really groovy and nice solos as well with great tone to them. On some critical notes, it's a little bit repetitive, and some passages feel like they could have been a little bit briefer, and the song's solid overall, but it's just lacking a little bit of the intangibles. Something in the feel isn't quite full power. So let's take a look at the final rating. The Prisoner's final rating is a 9.5 out of 13. Okay, 22 Acacia Avenue starts off on a strong note with a good guitar riff that sets the stage well for the energy of the song, and the pre-verse sung by Bruce sounds great, really high energy level as well. And overall, the lyrics in this song are really good, telling a great story of this guy trying to rescue Charlotte from her way of life. And one of their best riffs during the verse, the build up into the second half of that pre-verse into the first verse, just awesome. And vocals overall really good in this song. The second verse further establishes that energy level, just powerful pumping beat, and the chorus just tons of energy. Breakdown into the instrumental bridge, the vocals are solid, the instrumentation's great, and the bridge itself has really soulful and passionate guitar solos, which I really dug. And the build up back into the main riff near the end of the song, Steve plays an awesome bass line that's a superb counterpoint to the riff itself, and it ends on a solid note. On some neutral or negative notes, the verse riff, while great, does tend to be a little bit repetitive at times, but it's a very minor note, and there's just a little bit of oomph missing here and there, but overall really good song. So let's look at the rating. 22 Acacia Avenue receives a 12.39 out of 13. Okay, the title track, The Number of the Beast. It's got a really creepy spoken word intro that sets the stage well for the song, dealing with the nightmare that Steve Harris had. The opening riff has a very ethereal sound to it, good phasing setting on the guitar to pull you into the dream scenario, and the build up into the verse is awesome, and Bruce nails this really high note, and I guess he had to do that take many times at the producer's request, which is why he's probably able to nail it, getting mad and frustrated. The drums during the verses have a really cool staggered tempo, and the vocals during the verses really solid, fit the song well, and there's an instrumental bridge with nice guitar solos. The tone sounds great and really do a good job capturing the torment of the character. Shifting tempos also during that bridge. Overall, it's a really good passage, nice proggy vibe, and the bass lines are also cool. On a critical note, it's an instrumentally solid song, but just lacks a little bit of punch and feels uninspired and not very deep at times, and some passages feel kind of tired. But anyway, let's take a look at the rating. The Number of the Beast's final rating? It's 8.66 out of 13. Okay, Run to the Hills, first single that was released before the album came out, begins on a strong note with the drums, and then the bass and guitar come in to further build the mood and really establish it firmly heading into the verse. And the verses themselves really capture the essence of that horse galloping and the intensity of battle and the feel of the song's subject. And the lyrics also tell a fantastic story, really putting you in there, and one of their better lyrical moments on this album or otherwise. Vocal harmonies during the chorus really capture the intensity as well, with a triple vocal harmony, it sounds like, by Adrian, Steve, and Bruce, but I'm not entirely sure if it's all of them. And instrumental bridge, great guitar solos, and really capture the vibe of the battle scenes as well. Clive's drumming and Steve's bass line build up into the final chorus near the end of the song, great. Bruce's vocals, solid, really powerful energy as he nails that high note heading into that chorus, just beautiful. On neutral or negative note, the song is just missing a little bit of punch in certain very subtle ways. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is. It's just vibe in certain aspects, just not quite fully capturing it, but it's still a solid song. So let's take a look at the rating, shall we? Run to the Hills receives 11.52 out of 13. Okay, Gangland starts off on a strong note with really high tempo drum and leads into a good bass and guitar riff, and there's a nice add-on post-second verse into the chorus that tells a really good story, one of my favorite passages in the song, and it sets a good mood for the character of the song. And there's also a really nice guitar harmony riff after the second chorus, and Bruce nails this awesome high note, just really well done. Neutral notes, the verses are pretty high energy but are kind of unadventurous overall, and this song is lacking in solos. There's one 5-second or so minimalistic solo after the third verse, which is kind of surprising. And the chorus is catchy, but it does get a little bit repetitive. On a critical note, there's just not a ton of depth in this song. It feels a bit hollow in a few intangible ways, but it's an okay song. So here's the rating. Gangland receives a rating of 8.37 out of 13. Okay, Total Eclipse. There's a really nice, well done build up into the verse, and nice sludgy tempo in the verses themselves. Really punchy, flushed out guitar chords sound really good. And the lyrics in this song are really cool. I like them. They tell a really good story. And the vocals during the chorus are also really strong. Nice heavy riff accompanying it. It just works really well. There's also a really nice tempo shift in the into the instrumental passage. The solos are killer, nice fast tempo. It also works really well. There's also a nice breakdown into the final movement, really powerful. You can really feel it. Vocals are really well done and beautiful by Bruce, and the overall ambience just works well. On some neutral or negative notes, this is a fairly strong song, and it's got some good elements to it and solid instrumentation, but it's missing some small spark to make it a great song, and it's kind of an esoteric element that's missing from it. It's just in the overall feel. So let's take a peek at the rating. Total Eclipse's final rating is 8.12 out of 13. Alright, the concluding track, Hallowed Be Thy Name. It's got a perfect intro. It's really adept at setting the stage for the subject of the song. The guitar and the bell and the drums just really pull you into the story. The vocals are among Bruce's best on any album, and really strong at conveying the overall mood. The lyrics are superb by Steve Harris. So much feeling, great storytelling. You can really sympathize with the character of the story, and there's a nice riff right after the intro. It's really superb. Does a superb job at putting you at the scene as the guy walks to the gallows. The verses themselves have a really powerful mood to them and are among their strongest ever. There's a nice guitar harmony after the second verse, and also the instrumental passage. Very powerful and moving. Just fit well the song overall. Very tastefully done. There's a nice segue into the instrumental passage. Just awesome riffing and a great build-up, deep feeling, lots of soul and passion. Really cool progressive rock type tempo shifts, and the instrumental passage itself is awesome. Really soulful guitar playing, really conveys the character's racing heart and his panic as the end of his life is approaching. He knows it's the end, and you can really feel that through the instrumentation in this song. And the end of the song, where Bruce is chanting the song title, it really sums up the build up to the very end, and then the end of the song itself really conveys the hanging of this guy at the very end of his life. Just it's an amazing song. I highly recommend looking this up if you've never heard this song before. If you're a metal fan, if you're a rock fan, it's just one of the quintessential songs that you should look up. It's an amazing song. There's not too much critical to say about this song. I mean, it's a perfect, or near perfect at least, by Iron Maiden, and perhaps some aspects of the instrumentation could have been tightened a tiny bit, but that's about all I can say. So let's take a look at its final rating. Hallowed Be Thy Name receives a final rating of 12.94 out of 13. Okay, so there you have it. A song-by-song retrospective of 1982's The Number of the Beast, their third album. And now we're going to take a look at the album's average rating out of 13 points, and also its ranking out of all 15 studio albums. So, here we are. Alright, so The Number of the Beast receives 10.16 out of 13 average rating, ranking it 9th out of 15 albums. Alright, there you have it, The Number of the Beast. A great album by Iron Maiden, a drastic improvement over Killers, and a snapshot of what was to come in the next few years as they further progress their sound. We'll be coming back at you in about 2 weeks with 1983's Peace of Mind, exploring further the lineup change paradigm that would plague them from time to time. That one being their 4th consecutive album in which they switched at least one member, acquiring Nico McBrain as their new drummer, Clive Burr leaving after the Number of the Beast tour. So, thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you in about 2 weeks with the next review. Feel free to leave some comments, suggestions, etc. in the section below here, and I really appreciate you guys carrying on with me in this journey. So, I will see you later.